You're listening to Inphamus Amadeuz.
Officially locked back here on the Inphamus Hour. I am your host, the Inphamus Amadeuz. Coming into 2020, it was a little weird because the saying going into 2020 that everybody was going to be outside. Thanks to COVID-19, outside has been canceled in 2020. Boredom has officially struck, I think, to everyone, including celebrities. I saw Sway Lee from Race Murder did an Instagram concert, and he was stage diving for no one in his crib. Let me know how you feel right now about this whole COVID-19 situation. Hit me on that Instagram at the Inphamus Amadeuz. Make sure you follow the podcast at the Inphamus Hour on all social media platforms, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and such and so forth. Right now, I have a Virginia-based artist. His style is very unique. It's a combination of drum and bass and hip-hop. And Kung Fu is definitely influenced into his style of music. Give it up for Brother Chin, or matter of fact, Lord Razu in the building. What's up, brother?
What up?
Where did the whole Kung Fu style come from influencing your music? We've seen this within hip-hop. Wu-Tang was most notably people that emerged Kung Fu into hip-hop. But for you personally, how did you merge these two genres together?
I mean, as a little kid, I grew up watching Ninja Turtles, and then I had older brothers, and they were rocking Wu-Tang, and I would listen to that all the time. I listened to that for every day that I could. My first album was Liquid Swords from the Jizza, and I just ever since then I just kept rocking with it. That was a big influence from me.
I think Kung Fu and movies in general always had a direct influence on hip-hop and vice versa. I remember early on, they used to have a lot of early hip-hop records in the Kung Fu movies. But Kung Fu flicks in general here in America have kind of faded out a little bit. You think there's a specific reason why we're not in tune with the Kung Fu Chinese style of movies?
I mean, I think like most things, when technology happened, the authenticity of like the old school type movies and how just the conflict and how it just got into the story is a lot different now. I mean, movies are just different in general. So it's just it doesn't have the same feel the new movies.
Yeah, definitely. When we listen to your music, it's definitely a combination of drum and bass mixed with hip hop. For people who are not familiar with drum and bass, can you kind of explain what type of music is it?
It's a form of electronic dance music. It was originally in the 90s called jungle, but it turned into drum and bass. But, I do two different styles. I'll rap on a drum and bass track, or I'll do a hip hop track. Sometimes I'll do a hip hop track and remix it to drum and bass and vice versa. But it's very, very hard, like boom bappy, but for electronic dance music.
Mm-hmm. We live in a day and age now where it kind of seems like artists are afraid to take risk. A lot of the songs sound repetitive. I mean, we could go across the board from, even like the new boom bap sound, like the new boom bap artists, it's like this slow melody with the trap music, which is not even trap anymore. I mean, trap music is gone, but whatever we call this style of music. But you think it's a risk to your career to kind of take a leap of faith like that and mix a style that people may not be familiar with?
I mean, not really. I mean, that's part of being an artist, taking risks. If you just cookie cutter and copying everybody, you can't really say you're an artist. A part of what making music is that freedom of expression. And even so, I have a bigger market to be able to play in Europe as opposed to just staying in one area with one genre of music. So you shortcut yourself, or you shorten yourself if you don't try to broaden your audience.
Absolutely. Are you located in Virginia now, or are you up north now?
Virginia.
COVID-19 is a real situation. Definitely up north, it's hit hard. How is the situation right now in Virginia?
I mean, they got us on lockdown. I'm working from home, so I'm just kind of staying in, working on music, doing the best I can.
Mm. I did a live broadcast for my last episode of the Inphamus Hour, and people who are listening, they're going to hear part of this episode. It's called COVID-19. And in this whole coronavirus thing, a new idea has been brought to us about social distancing. Do you think social distancing is something that we would use moving forward, even after the COVID-19 pandemic is over?
Almost definitely. I mean, if people practice this regularly, we have less colds, less flu, less issues like that. But this is just a testament of how people need to really increase, how they, there's personal hygiene and just being aware of like when you're sick to kind of keep your distancing, stay at home to prevent things from happening like this.
Another thing that with the whole COVID-19 situation has been like a new form of like etiquette, which has came out now, where it's like you have to be more mindful washing your hands, but at the same time you can take it as like disrespect in a sense if you're around someone you know and you give them a dap and they're cleaning their hands. Have you been in a situation like that recently where it's like maybe someone you know, maybe someone you've been around, they've given you a pound, you've given them a pound, and the energy has been a little weird because of the situation we're going through right now?
Nah, instead of pound, we go to elbows. We adapt. So
I actually did a whole video on this on Instagram about the whole dapping situation with the elbow. So moving past this, hip hop is in a unique place now because it almost seems like the reset button has been hit. So now that the reset button has been hit, do you think there'll be a room for the underground real lyricists to emerge in the forefront?
I mean, I definitely think so. But a part of being successful, I mean, you got to do the work. You got to have some loot in order to put behind this stuff. You can't just be in your room rapping and think something's going to happen. You got to do work. You got to have some money. Mm-hmm. You don't get handouts.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the exact reason is? Like, I mean, you've been around for a long time. I'm sure you're old enough to see the whole entire progression of music. What do you think is the exact reason that now being a lyricist has become almost like a subgenre of hip hop? Before, it was the forefront. Like the best rapper was the one to emerge on Billboard and sell the most records. But now it's like looked down on. Like, where do you think the disconnect happened exactly?
I mean, people look for that instant gratification. Thinking requires a lot of effort, and people find critical thinking, draining. So they just want things easy and turn up, just have a good time. But like, just having a boom box and sitting in the crib with your homies, just listening to music, that's not really a thing. But part of it too is because music is so accessible.
Yeah. Music is 100% accessible. From working in a radio perspective, I think one of the main mistakes that the new genre of boom bap artists are making, and I've talked about this in the podcast previously, is not creating a commercial sound. If you listen to the new generation of boom bap artists, it's almost like a rebellious, like, we're not creating commercial records, and not to be confused, because a commercial record is not like a Travis Scott record per se. A commercial record, like when you listen in a club, it's actually like kind of like the West Coast sound, like the DJ Mustard, Tiger, like that type of thing. Right. You think a lyricist should take a leap of faith and explore these type of records, or should we kind of just say, you know what? We're going to stay underground. We're going to stay bars forever and accept it, take it or leave it?
I mean, nah. I mean, it kind of, it goes back to what I said earlier. Taking a leap of faith, you can still do boom bap, but, grow. You don't got to make the same 5 tracks every time. Yeah. You can definitely grow and make something commercial to kind of bring people back. But that comes with understanding music in different genres. And that's why I do different genres, because you bring those different elements back into your basic.
Hip hop changes every 10 years. So every 10 years, the sound changes. Now we're in the new decade of hip hop music. Where do you think hip hop ultimately is going to go?
I mean, that's real tough, because just the nature of I think it starts with production, making the beats. But I think the way music is now, it might come back to having, branching out to have different styles like we did in the 90s, not just one song or one flow every song. I think it'll go back to that while still retaining what we have now.
Absolutely. I think the sound nowadays has become super redundant. Every sound, it just all sounds the same. I remember in the 90s in Virginia, we had 2 very distinct sounds that came out, Neptunes and Timberland, which was like late 90s, early, and it sounded nothing like we have ever heard now. We were talking a little bit before we got on air about your video work, and you have a few videos coming out. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I used to want to do an album, but for me, because I understand the digital age and videos, for the past 2 years, I've been releasing a video of some sort every month, whether it's a hip hop video or a drum and bass, animated music video. I try to keep it consistent because of those people's, short attention spans. So because I understand the age you're at, like I only focus on videos, song to video every time.
Now, now, when you say animated video, is this like an original animated video, or are we taking like Amni and then putting your record behind it and then creating a video?
Anime. Or any animation, yeah. And that's actually a direct influence, from Iron Man. And I saw that when I was a kid. But yeah, I try to do those type of videos every month, either a live video or animated music video, just to kind of keep it fresh.
Now, when you were coming up, like, who were some of the artists that you looked up to that made you inspired to want to be a hip hop musician?
I would definitely say J. Rue the Damager, Rakim, obviously Wu-Tang, Jay-Z, Nas, Busta Rhymes. Those are my main rotation that really inspire me.
Mm-hmm. But Busta Rhymes was a super dope animated artist. Do you think Busta Rhymes doesn't get the credit he deserves as a lyricist?
Oh, he definitely doesn't. He's very slept on. He was, man, since the years of the new school. I mean, he's been hitting, and he still hits now. But he just doesn't get enough recognition. That's probably because of him being, a previous generation.
Yeah, Busta Rhymes, his first few albums, he had some amazing lyrical work on there. And then as the commercial era came, he was one of the guys that was able to kind of switch over and still remain relevant. Now, even 20 years later, I mean, Busta Rhymes could drop a record or do a feature with someone, and it'll be super relevant. So, moving down forward in Brother Chin's path and Lord Razu's path, where do you think you're gonna be 10 years from now, 20 years from now? What do you want your legacy to be on hip hop?
Bringing diversity, being yourself. You don't always gotta follow the trends. Staying true to your heart, staying true to the music is something that I try to do. And that's a legacy that I want to, be able to pass on, is being original, never giving up. It doesn't matter if it takes 10, 20 years. If you never stop, something will happen.
Mm-hmm. Definitely super inspiring. Get it from my guest, Lord Razu. Real quick, shout out to social media real quick.
Oh, you can find me at the Lord Razu everywhere. But, you just go to my website, thelordrazu.com. You can find everything that you need there.
All right, that's super dope. Now, for the people listening in the podcast format, they're going to hear a commercial, but for people listening on radio right now, we're going to debut a record. So what is the record you want to debut right now?
This one's called Elevate Danger. I dropped this on my birthday, March 20th.
Happy birthday. Wow. All right, so talk a little bit about the record. What's the concept of the record? What are people going to expect when they hear this song?
I mean, for me, this one was, a real, close to the chest, because I was at a time in life when I wrote this and I made the beat where I lost almost everything. I lost my job, and I was on my last, time, last month in my apartment, and I was going hard, and I just made this beat to kind of just talk about how I elevated out of the struggle, and just kind of, demanded respect on the elevation.
And as you should. So much prosperity. I give it for my guest, Lord Razu, in the building. I am your host, Inphamus Amadeuz. This is the Inphamus Hour. About to enter this new record. We'll be right back after this message on the Inphamus Hour.
I got something here.
Some radio stations are hot and some are not. Moving on up.
Yo, shots pop off. It's been a long time since I took off. The devil had a grip, so I slipped with the sawed off. The blatant statement, it said a nigga wouldn't make it. My words are blatant, still a slave until you're taking all.